In the previous video, we went over the pattern drafting for this pant trouser, and in this video we are going to be putting all the pieces together and sewing it. You're welcome to Kemafrik. My name is Kemi Omorogbe. Let's start with the pattern transfer process. I added 1/2 inch to the inseam, the side seam and the waistline, and on the band I added 1/2 inch seam allowance at the top, bottom and side. The center front is on fold while the center back isn't on fold, and you have to add seam allowance to the center back band. If you're working with a thick fabric, you can overlock all the sides of your trouser before you go ahead to sewing. But if you're working with a soft fabric like chiffon, some soft crepe, don't do that, please. Go ahead and sew, then you go and overlock. That's because sometimes overlocking has a way of, wrinkling the fabric, and then it starts affecting your seam. Now this is the center back. I am marking the position of my zipper, so from the part I marked, I will notch that point so that I can remember. You're going to be sewing from that point to the crouch like so. And for the front, there's no need to notch anything, just close it up. The reason why we had to start our seam from that point for the back is because of the zipper. Having done that, you're going to place the front over the back piece, and you're going to sew the inseam from the hem to the crotch, then to the hem again. You're going to be sewing by your seam allowance, and for this piece it is 1/2 inch. This is what we have after that process. The next thing is to sew up the sides. Okay, since we don't have a zipper at the side, so you just sew from the top to the bottom by your seam allowance. For me, once again, 1/2 inch seam allowance. So as I was sewing this, I was going over to overlock each seam, okay, because this fabric is medium weight, but I just didn't want to give myself any challenge. Here is our band right here. The sewing process is pretty easy if you are following, right? So I'll start by joining the top. For the band, I forgot to mention that you need to cut a lining and the main fabric using the same fabric, please, and then you also need to press in a fusible interfacing. So this is the band for the back. You can start by sewing the lining to the main fabric by 1/2 inch at the top, right face facing the other. This is the front, and for the front you are still going to do the same thing. Okay, so you notch the middle of the front so that you can place them rightly over each other. Now when I was sewing this, I actually went ahead to lose that seam, and I decided to join the sides together. That's another way you can go about it. So join one side, the front to the back on one side, then the front again to the back on the other side, and when you are done, you can then use the entire lining to turn the entire fabric. That way I discovered it sits better than doing it the first way, that's sewing the top first then joining together. The band just doesn't seem to relax properly. So I haven't joined the lining and the main fabric together. For the band, turn it to the right side and go ahead and give it a good press. Now we're going to attach this band to the trouser by 1/2 inch. Just start at the center back and start sewing your seam on one side of the band, that's the main fabric. Okay, so it has to be right side of the band facing the right side of the trouser so that your seam is on the inside. Before you sew, it is important to just pin the band onto the fabric first. That's because your seams, your side seam for the band needs to align well with the side seam for the trouser. You can't afford to make any mistake, and if there is any misalignment, you can adjust the side seam of either the band or the trouser so that they fit perfectly into each other. Now after that step, you need to attach your zipper. But when you are attaching this zipper, you're not starting from the lining of the band, you're starting from the main fabric of the band. Okay, what I mean is your lining will be left out. So because my zipper is very long, I am attaching it this way so that I can cut off the top. Okay, so I'm going to sew till I get to the top of the trouser, basically without the line. You have to use the lining of the band to turn the band at the end of the day, so I'm not including the lining of the band. Okay, so here I'm just basically explaining that. Okay, you sew from this point, leaving out the lining of the band from the top to wherever you started your crotch seam from. Okay, Now this is what I have right here. I have cut off the excess of my zipper, just leaving a little bit so that I can fold the zipper like so. So now what I'm doing is using the lining to turn the zipper, and then at the edge you fold in the 1/2 inch seam allowance of the lining of the band. Okay, this main trouser doesn't have a lining, so every time I say lining I actually mean the lining of the band. So right there I went ahead to stitch it up to close up the zipper. Now this is what we have. You can also try pinning before you go ahead to sew. I'll do the same thing on the other side, then turn it inside out like so. So what you have done is you have covered that part completely, and when you're doing this, make sure that the seam is towards the band. I mean, the seam between the band and the trouser itself should be facing upward. Okay, now go ahead and pin the lining of the band over the seam, okay, just to hide it properly. Ensure that you notch the center front and the center front of the band so that it aligns with the center front of the trouser, and also all the side seams. Now before going ahead to sew, I went ahead to include an elastic at the side right there. So guys, I actually lost some of my clips. I didn't show the finished process. What I did basically is to, you know, close up my band, and then I went ahead to fix the hem. I sealed by my 2 inches hemming allowance, and I gave it a good press. That's basically the 2 steps I missed. I just couldn't find the videos. Well, that will be the end of this video. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and to give this video a thumbs up. See you in my next video. Bye.